The Roman Phalanx has got to be one of the most iconic formations in military history, so let's talk about how it actually came to be. Now, the story of the Roman Phalanx is really a story of the evolution of the Roman army as a whole. Because this iconic formation didn't just appear out of nowhere. The Roman army was originally a relatively small force of citizen soldiers who were all armed with the same basic equipment. They were organized into centuries, which were basically just companies of 80 men each, led by a centurion. This equipment was pretty similar to what other Italian states were using at the time: long swords, daggers, and helmets, as well as the iconic red-crested shields. And they were also all heavy infantry, that is to say they wore armor, had big shields and so forth, but while other Italian states kind of kept their armies as they were. The Romans started experimenting with adding more equipment to their soldiers. One example of this was the addition of a second smaller sword called a pugio, which was carried on the left side of the soldier and was designed primarily for stabbing. Another piece of equipment that the Romans added was the asta, which was basically a spear that was used for throwing. This wasn't exactly a new invention either, as the Greeks had used similar weapons before, but the Romans weren't just copying the Greeks here. They actually developed their own version of the Greek phalanx. The Greek phalanx had originally been designed to be used with a long spear called an aster, which was too long to carry into battle. So Greek hoplites would carry two spears, one long one and one short one. The Roman phalanx retained this double spear idea, but instead of using two different spears, the Romans used two of the same spears. This innovation allowed the Roman soldiers to form a much tighter phalanx than the Greeks because there was no need to have a long spear on one side and a short spear on the other. The tight formation that resulted from this innovation made the Roman phalanx much more effective at holding and breaking charges than the Greek phalanx ever was. And it also helped that the Romans had the best armor of any army in the Mediterranean at the time, including the heavily armored Gauls. By the end of the 3rd century BC, the Roman army had become a force to be reckoned with. Their equipment was copied all over the Mediterranean, and their tactics were studied by military leaders from every state. And it wasn't until the 1st century BC that other armies began to catch up to them in terms of their equipment and organization. Thank you for watching.